Hey there, this one's going to be a little bit different. I don't have a script for this one, but I will be showing you how to go through solo Shattered Throne. This content is fairly long in the tooth nowadays, but I think other than the fact that everything is really dark, it's actually aged very well. As the very first dungeon, Shattered Throne is relatively solo friendly, other than the lack of raid banners, which means that I can basically rock this stasis build the entire time. If you want to see the full lowdown, I do have a video on the channel that I'll link to in the corner tag. As far as builds go, I would say your options are very open, but there are a couple of things that can set certain builds above others. Number one, a way to heal yourself will be very helpful since every enemy will be focused on you. And number two, you'll definitely want a long-range weapon such as a bow or a scout rifle. You'll also want to make sure that you have a mid to long-range void weapon for the ogre encounter. Alright, let's talk about the first encounter. The first encounter for Shattered Throne is essentially a search and destroy mission. The main goal is to kill the group of enemies along with its mini-boss, look at the symbol, and then go to where that symbol indicates on the map so that you can kill the next group of enemies. If you don't have the symbols memorized, or you just don't really feel like looking up a map, you can also just follow your radar around the arena. In general, the only thing you really have to look out for is being overwhelmed by enemies, because this particular map has the habit of spawning things around you when you walk over certain triggers in the environment. I'll try to note them out as I go across them. Looks like we're starting with single fish this time. Here's a good example of one of those triggers that I'm talking about. The second I walk outside this door, a bunch of stuff's gonna spawn on me. As you saw there, most of the enemies in here aren't as scary as you may initially think, but they can overwhelm you, and the snipers will definitely finish you off if you don't pay attention to them. In the first encounter, the snipers are mostly focused on the roof of the center building in the arena, so just keep an eye out for them if you're suspicious that something has spawned around you. Alright, Infinity Snake is next. The first encounter is fairly solo friendly. You're not under any timers, and honestly the only things that you really have to worry about killing you are the platforming and these couple of phalanxes that are about to pop out of the ground here. This spawn trigger always spawns 4 phalanxes, so if you only see 2, you should back up to more stable ground. Case in point, that shield push right there would have killed me if I hadn't backed up. The next spawn trigger is right outside of the tower that we're about to cross, and it's just a bunch of thralls, so a lot less threatening than the phalanxes. You do, however, want to look back at the building and kill any of the snipers that you can get a bead on beforehand. Infinity Snake's right there, but watch out to the left. Taking Captain will spawn beforehand. The last thing you want on a solo run is to be flanked. Alright, the next spawn trigger is right here. It's going to spawn snipers next to you, behind you, and on the building in the middle. The next mini-boss is inside the tower here, but first we want to take out the adds in front of it so that we have a safe spot to retreat to, just in case. We're headed to Doublefish now, but there is one thing to note. The hallway before it can be a little spooky. There's going to be a take-in captain that spawns right out of the wall right in front of you, and the boss is a phalanx, so if you're not careful you get knocked through this cavern off of the platform. My advice to counteract this is to hug the left side entrance of the cavern so that you can use the corner to block the phalanx's pushback. He won't always walk out into the cavern, but when he does, he is not afraid to use the architects to beat you. We're headed to Loopy Snake now. Loopy Snake is actually the easiest symbol to take care of because you can get a very good vantage point by hopping to the top of the building and looking down. It's the easiest symbol to tackle because you have a very good safe spot on top of the building. Just ignore the part where I nearly die. Alright, perfect. That's Dive Bomb. Dive Bomb is always the last symbol to pop up because that means you need to head back to spawn, kill the boss there, and then walk on out to the next encounter. But before that, one last spawn trigger. This one's just a phalanx. Alright, now I know it's easy to underestimate platforming because most of the time when you're in triplets it doesn't really matter if you fall off a ledge. When you're solo you want to be sure of every jump you take because one fall means you have to redo that entire first encounter again. In most dungeons, anyway. In the Shattered Throne in particular, you don't actually have to solo flawless to get the emblem, you just have to solo. So having to repeat the platforming is the worst thing that you'll encounter if you drop. But you still definitely don't want to have to redo it all, because you will start right back here. This part right here is one of the main reasons you want a scout rifle or a bow. There's going to be several snipers, there's going to be several long distance engagements, and you definitely want to be able to take out targets from a safe distance without having to run in and put yourself at risk. Again, fall and you have to restart. Quick spawn call out here. There's a taken phalanx to the right. Don't let him catch you unaware. Here's another fun one. Don't run through this door. Take a peek off the side and take out some of the snipers. This whole area is about making a safe zone for yourself, so you don't want to leave yourself open to them on top of the knights. Just like before, you're not under any timers, so just take your time and clear a path. That takes care of that. Alright, next up is Anor Londo. The way this works is that there are ogres that will spawn on triggers, just like before in the first encounter. The trigger is usually leaving the safe zone and getting onto a rafter. So the best method is to step onto the rafter until you hear the spawn sound, and then back up immediately so that you have something against your back. If you don't do that, the ogres will spin up their I-beams and shoot you off of the raptor into midair. It's one of the worst ways to go. It's also where most of my attempts end, so watch out for it. You'll also want to watch out for the little gaps in the rafters at the cross sections. Don't fall through one of those. If an ogre does manage to hide behind a pillar, walk forward just a little bit to where you can see an arm. That way you can get the drop on it instead of the other way around. This next one is the most dangerous part of Anor Londo. Use your heavier or super if you have to take this ogre out quickly before it can knock you off. Now we come up to the first Thrallway. This one can be a little annoying, but it's not that much of a challenge. The debuff from this zone will keep you from sprinting or double jumping. If you have high mobility, you can actually just walk straight through without killing anything. But as insurance, I'm going to put on a weapon with Vanguard Vindication for health on kill. In general, it's not worth trying to fight these Thrall. They're not worth your time or effort. On top of that, there are several spots in the Thrallway where the Thrall can't reach you if you stay there, so if you need to rest for a healing grenade, feel free. If you have any catalysts you need to finish, now would be the time. Break out that Sunshot. As I casually stroll past this last set of stairs, I'd like to point out that this is the best place to farm ammo. As I said before, the Shattered Throne is the only dungeon that doesn't allow rally banners, so your best bet to farm ammo to be at full capacity would be here in the Thrallway. Just jump onto the side of the stairs where they can't reach you, aim down, and kill enough so that you get a heavy brick. Repeat until full. As I run through this last little bit of platforming, I'd like to begin talking about the ogre. Just time your jumps here to go right after the wall push goes off. For the ogre boss, the main strategy is to lower each wizard's health so that it's low enough that a single shield burst will kill it. This way you don't have to unload all of your heavy trying to kill a wizard before the 45-second timer on the buff kills you. Instead, you should go through and kill all of the adds in a circular motion, and then go through a second time on a sort of victory lap to finish off each of the wizards and pick up their buffs. This is where healing from your abilities can be very crucial. Since every enemy is focused on you, even the vandals across the way will be looking at you trying to get an angle on you. Since most of your attention will be on the ogre and preventing sightlines for him, taking care of the vandals is essential so that they don't catch you unaware. As a general rule, keeping out of the center is your safest bet. If you want to play it as safe as possible, then void builds are a good idea here since you can match the shield polarity and proc devour. In my case, my healing is coming from freezing enemies and dropping the stasis shards, which means I have to keep moving forward just like a devour build would. The other half of the equation is the DPS phase. Vorgeth was made before most of the abilities and tools we have nowadays, so he actually isn't all that beefy. You'll usually only have to do 2 rounds of damage to him as long as you can consistently proc some sort of buff. If you're rocking with something like a Well of Radiance, then you can honestly just grab a sword and go to town. Other than that, my best advice is just to keep moving so that the ogre can't get a beat on you. He'll be walking around and try to change his sight angle, and you don't want to let that happen. Remember, vandals are priority number 1. After that, we just need to weaken the wizards. If you accidentally kill one, it's not a huge deal. Back here at spawn, another one will spawn soon after. If you do accidentally kill one, don't pick up the buff until you're sure you can stack it all of the way to 4. You're not on a timer so long as you're not carrying a buff, but the second you pick up a buff, you have 45 seconds to pick one up or start the damage phase. Time for the victory lap. Remember, 45 seconds to pick up another buff or start the damage phase. Ideally, you'll be able to put one of the pieces of the dunking platform between you and the ogre. As you can see right here, this is not ideal, but we're still going to be able to do about 50% damage, which is enough. Not too bad. If you do end up needing heavy ammo, then my suggestion would be to kill the spawn wizard on purpose, early, don't pick up the buff, and just farm him for a while. That area is generally the safest part of the room. Deep breath, the hard part's over now. From here on, it's just some light platforming and then one more encounter.
Fight like tomorrow will never arrive.
See these 4 wizards down here? They're idiots. Ignore them, it's not worth the fight. This platforming section isn't all that scary, at least until the push wall. That said, I'm going to go ahead and throw on my Amit since there's a couple of solar shielded taken captains further up that you want to be able to deal with. You'll mainly want to rely on your primary weapon since again, no rally banners, and you're going to want that special and heavy for Dul Incaru. Oh, and while I'm at it, don't trust these elevators. Land under your own power, otherwise you'll break your knees and die. If you haven't already, this is the exact spot where you should stop and swap to the build you're going to use for the final encounter. Just a little bit further and you'll hit the second Thrallway of Shattered Throne, which is the perfect spot to farm ammo so that you're stocked up and ready to go. Directly afterwards, you'll encounter a phalanx standing in the center, but it's a trick. There's a second one that will pop out of the wall from the back right and try to catch you unawares. Don't let it. This is the final push wall of Shattered Throne and the very last bit of platforming you'll have to do. Before you tackle it, you should put on a ranged primary weapon and edge just to the left of this platform so that you can get an angle on the two hobgoblins and take them out before you start platforming. There's a third one further up ahead that's also a bit dangerous, but you can't do anything about that one from here. Just like the earlier push wall, the best way to handle this wall is to wait until the initial push goes off and then start sprinting past it. As soon as you cross the threshold of that first push, you should then jump into the air to dodge the rest. That's all of the platforming done. Now it's time to talk about Dul Incaru. Unlike the Ogre, Dul Incaru doesn't change very much with only one person. Since the damage phase starts as soon as you pick up any of the orbs that the knights will drop, the strategy is actually identical to when you're in a group. Bring all of the knights' health low, finish them all at the same time, pick up all of the orbs at the same time, and that way you have a multiplicative damage bonus and can one-phase Dul Incaru. The main difference lies in how you handle the adds. Since you'll be the only one taking care of the scions, you want to make sure to wipe all of them out before you start damaging the knights. Otherwise, you'll get overwhelmed and bursted down. On top of that, you'll have to keep an eye on the knights. If you're not careful, they'll surprise you by sneaking up behind you and do 70% of your health in one hit. The best way to deal with both of these factors together is to make sure that you're on the ground as little as possible. While you're in the air, the knights can do basically nothing to you. The wizard will be shooting blasts at you that are inaccurate and splashing on the wall instead, and the scions will be out of sight, out of mind once you take care of them. It's easy to tell when scions are inbound because when the crystal spawns and the knights go invincible, breaking the crystal is what spawns the next wave of scions. When the knights get low health like that, avoid shooting crits, otherwise you'll knock their head off and they'll become much faster and much more aggressive. As long as they're walking slow, you're still okay. But the second they start walking faster, it gets a lot harder. Stay in the air, keep making the circle, don't let anything focus you down. And then, it's just a matter of time. Now that I've killed one, I have to commit. Dealing decent damage rather than trying and failing to get 3 stacks is much preferable, so that's what we're going to do here. For the damage phase, the main thing to do is to position yourself such that the wizard is on the other side of the middle table. This gives you a great spot of cover so that you don't get bursted down by the chain blast. On top of that, it also makes it very easy for you to clear the buff before it ticks down all the way to 0 by jumping on top. Unfortunately, since there's still a half-health knight wandering around, things aren't that easy this time. Alright, doing it the hard way then. Rinse and repeat until dead. If you've made it this far, I'd like to say thank you. It turns out nobody knows how to solo Shattered Throne.